Yeah, it's true. Just wanted to offer an opportunity. So we're live. Great, thank you. We're going to call the Board of Education meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Lori, roll, please.
Colin Burnell.
Here.
Matthew Phipps.
Here.
Stacy Seldner.
Here.
Matthew Spalding.
Here.
Carrie Trask. Tony Bostelica.
Here.
And Kathy Willis. Here. Thank you.
All right. At this time, we're going to be doing public input. Individuals are allowed a 5-minute max each, up to 30 minutes total. Otherwise, we got. We'll go through and try and get to as many, or we'll go through these and we'll go through them all. So, up to 5-minute max each. Just ask that the first person here we got is Rebecca Walensky.
Hello, I'm Rebecca. I'm from Newton. I'm reading for somebody else tonight who asked me to read for them. Good evening, Manitowoc Public School Board. First and foremost, thank you for all your service. I understand to be in a position such as a school board member is not one that is taken lightly, nor is the work that you do. So thank you for your service. I am also very grateful member of the Ally group who has taken grateful to the member of the Ally group has taken his or her or their time to assist me in reading my concerns that I have to the board. You may be wondering why I'm not in front of you, why I'm not before you myself, rather than having another community member express my concerns to the board. The simple answer is because I am one of several hundred school staff who is employed in our school district. Please know my concern that I have today is not coming from the lens of an educator of the Manitowoc Public School District. And I emphasize on not, because rather an active citizen living in service and greater good of our community outside of my work in our district. I'm concerned about our board members' level of professionalism, etiquette, and representation of our school board, our Manitowoc Public School District, and our state. As board members, you may argue the First Amendment, your freedom to speech, but you know your freedom of speech has consequences. What exactly am I referring to as a concerned citizen? I'm referring to these comments. May I have a Manitowoc Public staff, school board staff member distribute these to the board members? Thank you. Sure. If any of you were a staff member of the Manitowoc Public School District and you behave in the manner on social media platforms such as this, you may be having a meeting in your principal's office with Human Resources and MEA if you are serviced by the union about your poor actions in the community, which is reflective of our school district. You may think this is a fluke, but I can assure you we have had staff disciplined for their actions on social media platforms. So what you've been handed out and is in front of you are copies of posts by board members on social media in recent weeks regarding the Manitowoc Public School District, controversial issues, things that you've been discussing for policy changes, comments that board members have made on social media. Let this sink in. You are a school board member. You are not only a representative of the school board, you represent our Manitowoc Public School District. You represent me as staff, speaking for the person who wrote this. You represent our Manitowoc community. You represent your business. You represent your employer. You represent you, your spouse, or your significant other. And if any of these representations does not resonate with you, then let me say this. You represent your children at home. Again, you represent your children. When you behave this way, you're allowing your children to behave this way. Parents acting like immature adults is a fine example of behaviors that we see each and every day in our buildings in school. Let that sink in. As a citizen of our community, I ask that from this day forward as board members, you all take some time to consider your actions. Possibly a policy that needs to be put in place is school board etiquette and representation, because as I reviewed in these policies, there didn't seem to be any documentation representing such a matter. Rebrand yourself to be a community of professionals who you had agreed and signed up to be, and not what is shared with you all this evening on this paper. Be neutral. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. The next individual for public input is Ann Jensen. Jensen.
Good evening. So I, like many others, have been attending school board meetings pretty regularly for about the last 2.5 years. Previous to the last election, there were so many people that commented about the previous board not responding to emails, not giving any feedback, some even going so far as to imply that they would like the school board to respond during a school board meeting. So on that note, I would like to thank Kathy, Stacy, and Carrie for replying to the email that I sent back in July. They are not new school board members who ran on that community engagement piece, but they responded to my email. Further, I would like to talk about the policy review for controversial issues. We have a lot of at-risk kids in this district. They are at risk simply because, some of them are at risk simply because they're LGBTQ. And they now have a school board with the majority of members not supporting them. But further than that, let's talk about the teachers, right? Teachers getting excited for the next school year and also afraid. I've literally talked to teachers that I know personally, and they have all said the same thing, that they are afraid. They are afraid they cannot protect their kids. They're students. They're talking about students they haven't even met yet. How can they make them feel safe in their classroom without the fear of losing their job? Or maybe even being sued. I feel like somebody said that at some point. So I implore you, when you are talking about revising this policy, that you take into consideration the safety and the mental health of our students and our staff. You wouldn't want to lose any more staff. Looks like they're flying out the door. These are good teachers. These are teachers that have been here. They're seasoned. They care about kids they have not met yet. They're fighting for those kids. Thank you.
Thank you. The next individual for public input is Sophia Meisner.
Hello, school board. Sorry. Hello, school board and community members. My name is Sophia Meisner, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm here representing a group from the MPSD school district who are concerned about the treatment of gender non-conforming students in the MPSD school district. After listening to the special board meeting that you held on June 2nd, it seems that board members have some confusion surrounding gendered pronouns. At the meeting, it was asked, where do pronouns fit into a child's long-term academic success? Well, it absolutely does fit. As a minority group, gender nonconforming people are more susceptible to anxiety, depression, and other stress-related mental illness. According to the article, Social Epidemiology of Depression and Anxiety by Gender Identity from the Journal of Adolescent Health, gender nonconforming teens are nearly twice as likely to suffer from depression as gender-conforming teens. And this strongly affects students' academic success as well as their physical and mental health. You mentioned as a solution that perhaps in the schools we shouldn't talk about pronouns at all. But you see, the problem with this is it places the burden upon the gender nonconforming student to repress their gender identity, which leads to stress, again, which undermines their academic success. We, a group of students from the MPSD school district, would like the opportunity to speak with you to help alleviate some of the confusion. Some of the confusion around gender pronouns so that you're able to effectively make policies that will benefit all of the MPSD students. Thank you.
All right, the next individual for public input is Jennifer Gleichner.
Good evening. As you all know, MPSD is facing a budget shortfall of at least $6 to $8 million. Soon the board will be tasked with making the decision of whether to approve a referendum to go to the public for a vote. I'm here tonight to recommend that the MPSD Board of Education, when the time comes, make the best decision for our community and approve at a minimum an operating expenses referendum, but ideally a recurring referendum to help support the financial future of the MPSD. State funding formulas for public schools have been locked since the early 1990s. In order to maintain and improve the quality of public education in the MPSD, a referendum is not only ideal, it is necessary. Failure to secure a referendum funding will likely mean staff cuts, increase in class sizes, and decreases in programming and services. Budgetary limitations like these displace workers, hinder the quality and availability of instruction and opportunities for our students, and delay or prevent maintenance for our aging district buildings. When a community is well educated, it thrives. Students are prepared for post-secondary education and the workforce. Businesses have more potential prospects in communities where there's a quality education system. Families will want to raise their children in a community that has a strong educational system. As we age, we can rest assured that in a community where education is valued, our caregivers will be competent and compassionate. The benefits of a properly funded public education system are numerous and invaluable. The state of our public education system will shape our future as a community. I encourage board members to please think critically and objectively about this matter and to make the decision that will best support our entire community in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next individual that I have for public input is Claire Steffenhagen.
Hi, I've been here before. Claire Steffenhagen. I'm a retired teacher from the Manitowoc Public Schools. I have some concerns about the decisions that the board has made recently. First, now that you have unfettered access to all schools, you have a responsibility to sign in and get a badge. This is essential for safety reasons. As a staff member, if I saw an unfamiliar person around my school, I would either call the police or put the school on lockdown. With power comes responsibility. Be responsible. Mr. Phipps is always talking about transparency. Your fob logs should be public record. Any citizen should be able to see where, when, and how many times you visit a school. Secondly, your choice of firms for strategic planning has no educational experience, cost more than the others, and there could be a conflict of interest. This board has talked about, and lastly, excuse me, the board, you've talked about key fobs, pronouns, controversial issues, teacher opinions, and a change to almost all the policies, except for the discipline committee. Where are your concerns about student achievement and fostering an environment where all students can learn? Horace Mann, considered the father of public education, wrote these principles. The education will best be provided in schools that embrace children from a variety of backgrounds. That education must be non-sectarian. That this education must be taught using tenets of a free society, and that education should be provided by well-trained and professional teachers. I hope that your personal biases and agendas will not interfere with your upholding the institution of public education. Thank you.
Thank you. The next individual that I have for public input is Jean Wire.
I think things are going in the right direction. Little bit of background. I've heard some things about we're going to run out of money, we've got problems, et cetera, okay? And I also heard some good things, which were the number one thing is to make sure that we get good education. Okay, so I'm all over that. I think that's terrific. I went to a two-room school most of my time. Okay, grades 1 through 8, 3 days of kindergarten. And I have to tell you that I swear that this is true. I learned everything that I needed to know by the time I was out of 8th grade for my career. And I actually did pretty damn good. Okay. I mean, I had a great career. The bottom line is this, okay? Yeah, it's about money, okay? And I can hear that and I can feel that. I really can. In the same regard, that grade school that I went to, I asked somebody recently, how much does it cost to educate a student? $8,700. You know what it is in the MPSD? 18,000 plus. Okay, so it's an extra $10,000. So money's a little bit of a concern, let's face it. Okay. There's a big disparity there. There's a lot of the community that has to look at this and say, yeah, you know, I mean, this makes sense, referendum, or no, it doesn't make any sense, because I'm looking at these other schools and the education that they're actually getting, the grades that they're getting for a lot less money. Okay. Now, that said, one of the real important things is to make sure that the budget presentation, which you'll be doing next month, I think.
Oh, actually, October 11th.
Okay, October 11th, terrific. Has kind of a real easy approach to it. Okay, how many dollars is the budget? How many residents do we have in the area? The way I calculated, if you just look at it right now, round numbers, we've got probably a $90 million budget, something like that. And I figure we've got probably 45,000 people in the area. So about $2,000 per man, woman, and child is what it costs to educate a student here. So we don't have any kids, right? What is $2,000, $4,000 for our household? It's okay, as long as we got good education, okay? And that's really the bottom line. But having that presentation as easy as possible for people to understand is vitally important. Now, There's an election coming up in November. There's a possibility, maybe a remote possibility, that the person that gets in is going to say, the education dollars are going to follow the students wherever the students go. And there could be a situation where more students actually move out of MPSD and they go to Ron Colley, or they go to First German, or some place like that. So one of the things that is necessary, if we can make this happen and make it very public, is to make sure that people understand we have X amount of dollars coming in per student. And when a student leaves, specifically for, and make an example, say it's Ron Colley High School and call it, I'll make it up, First German, okay? Or pick two parochial schools. Those are the things that people are going to ask about. They're going to say, okay, what's going to go on here? Okay, I've been told that there's about 25% of the dollars that come in are left in the district, and 75% go with the student. We really need to get that nailed down so the public firmly understands that, okay? This whole budget thing shouldn't be difficult. I know historically it's been done in a certain way, and that's terrific, okay? And I'm sure the board understands perfectly everything. As just a regular guy that thought he knew quite a bit out of 8th grade, I'm a little lost on this, okay? So that would be good. So that's my pitch, okay? 1, good education. 2, tell the people in the area what this is going to cost and where the dollars are going to go, and give us that example, okay? Thank you very much. And by the way, I think it's going in the right direction.
Thank you. Thank you. The next person that I have for public input is Marilyn Wire.
I really don't have a long comment to make, other than I have been kind of following your meetings and your subcommittee meetings online, as well as looking over the minutes. I want to tell you, you guys have tackled a huge job and you're doing well. Great. I just have to honestly say the many hours that you already have put in just within the last 2 months, you are charging forward. Please keep it up and don't get discouraged. You are doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. The next individual that we have for public input, and the last, as I do not have any others, is Dana Getz.
I will have.
That's right. There is one more after that.
So my name is Dana Getz. I live at 1346 Westwood Lane in Manitowoc. We have watched your actions and decisions since the election in April, and for some of you, an additional year before that. We have continued to watch you make decisions based on your own personal viewpoints, with lack of consideration for the majority of parents in the district, lack of consideration for the majority of voters in the district, and most certainly lack of consideration for our educators. As a member of Ally, I can assure you I speak for many. It is time that you start listening and using research and reasoning to make your decisions. Your decisions have consequences, and I fear the decisions that you are continuing to make are not in the best interest of our district or our educators and will have negative consequences downstream. Number 1, unfettered access to our schools. Have you considered asking the educators about how they feel about this? Have you considered taking into consideration their ideas and feelings? What is the real meaning behind this action? Do you have that level of distrust for our educators that you can't ring a doorbell and enter the building through the front door like every other community member? Number 2, do you actually have any proof that CRT is being taught in our schools, or that our educators are sexually grooming our children? Both of these accusations are hurtful and offensive to our MPSD staff and the individuals that we as parents trust in educating our kids. Number 3, did you think to ask educators or staff of the MPSD what they thought about a strategic plan, or invite them to participate in the selection process? Do you think that educators will trust an individual to execute a document that belongs to them, that is built on academic achievement, when the person that you chose to write the strategic plan has no formal experience in education. And you could have chosen an organization that that educators and district staff have trust and agree with and align with as public educators. Number 4, have you thought about asking teachers or staff members about how changing of a school policy in regards to controversial discussion will affect their classrooms? Have you taken into consideration what that means to their level of education and expertise in their craft? Have you taken the time to understand how their academic backgrounds and educational coursework that they have used or completed to earn their degrees, and especially in the field of ethics, how they're prepared to handle these discussions with children? Number 5, today you announce a $5,000 hire bonus, but what have you done to retain the staff that you have? Have you done a fair market analysis to see where our educators hit in salaries around the state? And are you looking at retention bonuses for our staff? I think the time has come for you to put your partisan viewpoints aside and figure out how you can collaborate and compromise with the staff that you have left. For the record, summer school is almost done, and I have not heard of one of you taking the time to visit a school and look at all the hard work and dedication that our teachers put by choice into our students. There's a lot of magic going on. And what have any of you done to see that or witness that? It is time you start supporting our educators. It is time you start trusting our educators. And it is time you start listening to what our educators need to lead these kids that you love so much. It is time for you to put your partisan agenda aside and do your job and support public education. If you are unable to fulfill your role as an elected official, perhaps it's time for you to resign and let those who have a passion for our public schools take over.
Thank you.
Matt, you said that you'd received a communication that was requested to be read.
This one is from Christine DeMay at 2000 Johnson Drive, Manitowoc, Wisconsin. First, I would like to thank all the board members and the time they give to move our district forward. I thank each and every one of you. Your service has not gone unnoticed in my eyes. I do have some concerns that I would like to share with you, the board, and the public. I do not agree with the transsexual discussion for children in schools, libraries, or anywhere else except at home where the parents make the choices. If you want to check out some interesting facts, there are several books out by Charlotte Iserbyt, Iserbyt. She's the one who wrote The Dumbing Down of America and a few other very noteworthy notebooks. These children are too young to make these kinds of choices. They bring up hormone blockers to put in their DNA on hold so the child can make up their mind. Does anyone really know what these puberty blockers do? No, they don't. There have been enough studies done, which doesn't surprise me, as how many parents would actually do that to their children. There is no such thing as gender dysphoria. I researched it. It is another ploy by the medical community to cover their backsides for giving in to things that they know are wrong. Children should go through puberty. Going through puberty gives them a chance to mature and realize who they are and what they want. Better yet, they should have to wait until they are adults, because then it is legally their choice. When you have a child at a young age that wants this procedure and goes through surgeries, what happens when they change their mind because they realize more and have matured? They should go through surgery and try to correct the damage already done by puberty blockers and surgery. I've said it before and I'll say it again. God does not make mistakes. However, we, being sinful human beings, do. Because society is trying to ram this down families' throats and is trying to destroy the family structure, you will actually assist them or try to fight back. If you truly love and want to protect your children, you will not cave when they should ask for this, because bottom line, all that children have to go through for this is bottom line child abuse. If you want your children to know about this, teach them at home. Just like so many don't want the Bible or prayer in the schools, we want our children protected from this kind of sexual thing until we as parents think it should be approached, if at all. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a boy playing with Barbie doll or a girl playing with G.I. Joe. That does not mean they want a sex change. That means they are going through the natural process of being creative and curious as a child should be. Parents jumping at the chance to use that as an excuse need to wake up. They aren't doing their children any favors. My second concern, Time to Teach, this program was created by the organization causing us the most grief right now. The UN, Bill Gates Foundation, MasterCard, and several other global entities have interest in this. They want control and will use any deceptive method to brainwash teachers and children. Gentleman that came here encouraging it will, of course, make it sound great. He is getting something out of it. Not all children can be or should be taught alike. Education is not one size fits all situation. Anything that you want to be truly successful is worth working at and in the true sense of putting effort into it, not taking the lazy man's way out. Last but not least, we need to get the Board of Education out of the system. State and government, they both have way too much pull and say the state locksteps with the government, and if the school doesn't follow the guidelines, the board gets involved. There should be no need for either one. It should be and could be much easier to teach foundational education without the Board of Education. We need more technical ally trained people out there at present, because with the housing shortage, many more electricians, plumbers, and so on are needed. There is no need to go thousands of dollars into debt in a liberal college that will only further turn most young adults into liberals and progressives. Again, thank you for your service and giving me a chance to air my concerns. God bless all of you. Christine DeMay, 2000 Johnson Drive.
Thank you.
A long one.
Matt,
Huh?
can you then supply that letter to Lori for record?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do that later. I'll forward that later.
All right, with that, I'll close public inputs. Bringing us to consent agenda. Everybody had a chance to review minutes that were supplied. Was there anything that needed to be pulled from the consent agenda? All right,
Was it just the special board meeting minutes and the financial budget committee minutes? Is that what's in the consent agenda?
that is correct.
No, I'm good.
All right. Pardon?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Carrie, second. All right, all those in favor of the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Moving on to the report of the superintendent. The payment of vouchers. Angela, would you care to present?
Yes, we have the payment of vouchers posted in board book, presented for approval today. The total amount of AP for approval for this month is $3.9 million. Payroll is about $853,000 this month, which is lower than it usually is, because we're in summer payroll season where we don't have our regular teacher payrolls. But business office has been working to prepare for moving the teachers to bi-weekly payroll, so those will be beginning soon. So happy to answer any further questions.
Are there any questions on the matter? All right.
Hey, Angela, I had a quick question.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I was reviewing the report. Thanks for putting that together. And I saw the employee trust funds for $989,000. Can you clarify what that is? Is that the retirement fund, or what exactly is that?
Correct. That's the WRS payment that we make to the state for the employer contributions. And that is just a normal benefit that we fund and employee contribution that we have to spend on a regular basis. And it's higher during the summer months when we have accrued payrolls from the previous year. It goes out the budget.
Okay, so that's not part of the retirement fund. That's just like a regular payroll tax type thing. Is that right?
Well, we're required to send those contributions into WRS that holds the funds and administers, the state pension, when employees qualify for that.
Gotcha. And Is that fairly representative of a typical month, or does that vary throughout the year?
That's a larger payment. I believe it's paid on a 1 month lag. So that included 2 months of teacher payrolls, along with the regular standard monthly payroll. So I can't remember offhand what a normal monthly contribution is. I could look that up and get that to you though, but it is, the employee pays 6.5% of their income is their portion, and then we match that. That's just the required percentage, and how it's normally paid out.
Sure, yeah, I'd be curious to know what that looks like on an annual basis, if you don't know that off the top of your head, whenever you get a chance.
Yeah, I can look that up. I can send a follow-up email to the board.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So are there any further questions regarding the payment of the vouchers? All right, with that, I'll seek a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion by Stacy. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Matt Phipps, seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye,
All right.
or nay, whatever.
No, nay?
Yeah, I'm opposed, yeah.
Okay. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the personnel report. Joyce, would you care to present?
Yeah, so there's 2 documents, the original personnel report, and then an addendum that was uploaded. I think the original one was uploaded. They were both uploaded on Monday. Of course, we followed the protocol that we established a few months ago that the personnel report is reviewed by the board president, and then, for us to then upload to board book. So it's pretty straightforward, but if there's any questions, I will certainly answer any questions.
Yeah, Joyce, I feel as though we have an extraordinary amount of resignations for this time of year. Have you looked into what is normal for us, like in years past for this time of year versus now? I mean, it looks, and I'm questioning too why we have a number of the resignations are listed from June 9th, but we've had meetings since then. So I'm kind of wondering why. So I guess 2-parter.
So when we get a teacher resignation like this time of the summer, so for example, on Monday of yesterday, we got 2 teacher resignations that are on the addendum. And then what we do though is we use the June 9th date because that was their last day of work for the month. So even though we got the resignation this week or last week or the week before for a teacher, that they submit their resignation, but we use June 9th on the personnel report because that's really the last way they would have worked for us. Okay. Your other question, I would honestly, have to do a little more research on your question. I mean, we certainly have gotten resignations in prior summers at this time, but we all know that our teacher turnover has been quite a bit greater this year than it was in previous years. So, but to compare, now to last, I'd have to look at.
And how many unfilled positions do we have at this time?
Yeah, so for teachers, I want to say yesterday, I believe we had 12 district-wide, 12 vacant teacher positions.
Is that counting these shorts? These resignations? Oh.
Yes, including the 2 resignations that came in this week.
Yeah, I know.
And that does not include the parents and so far.
Correct.
Okay,
That's just our teaching
staff
positions.
Okay.
Carrie, did you have something?
I just want to know if the teachers resigning from Franklin are the teachers that were involved in our rearranging of staff. You know, we had 3 teachers transferred from Franklin to other places. Were any of those on this list? Okay.
Joyce, I actually do have a question. As far as the exit interviews, we're still conducting those, correct? And for the exit interviews, how often are we going to be probably seeing a report as far as the reasons and rationales for exits?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I have access to that data. I believe Jim does as well, and Mary will then have access. So, you know, I can go into school perceptions right now and look at the results. I think when I made a presentation in the middle of June, I think we had 37 responses. So I think we're now up to 45 or 46, you know, so at any time, you know, and maybe that's something the personnel committee, once Mary is on board, wants to take a look at it again, but we have access to those results at any time.
Okay. That's Stacy. Stacy, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just to clarify, we aren't doing exit interviews. It's a survey that goes out to all those that have left the district. And the other thing I wanted to ask Joyce was, is the resignation, is this something that is happening all over the state, or is this unique to Manitowoc?
It's happening all over. Unfortunately, it's happening. You know, again, I can't speak to what degree or, but I can honestly say that this is not a issue that's unique to Manitowoc.
Thank you. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to say is that Joyce did present the data to us. It's a rolling, so they're going to, when you resign, you get the survey right away. So, you know, that data is coming in all the time. I believe traditionally the personnel report gets that information, and then I believe it's October where HR has then presented something about kind of the year. But know that you can go back and listen to that meeting, or I know Tony has gotten information. Joyce has sent the PowerPoint presentation. So anyone that wants the details of that, we do have it.
Thank you. Matt.
Joyce, this isn't directed towards you by no means. So if you have insight, please help, because I'm just a simple question. I've been kind of watching the resignations for special ed teachers and paraprofessionals, and I want to know what we're doing to proactively try to retain those teachers or those paraprofessionals, because the turnover rate is so high. Is there anything that we're doing proactively to try to hold on to those teachers or those paraprofessionals in the special ed category at the moment?
I have to go back and look at some data, but I actually believe our turnover in special education teachers is actually maybe a little less, or certainly no more. And I have to go back and look. But as far as special education teachers, which typically has been that we have seen some turnover, it's a harder to fill position, special ed teachers. It hasn't been a real issue this year.
I just saw at Lincoln, that was a vacancy at Lincoln.
Yeah.
And
but generally speaking, we've been doing pretty well really well with special education teachers. So
good.
You know, I've said this, it's a great question. And I think that, again, that's something that the board, the community, staff, you know, I think we have to continue to look at creative, strategic ways to attract and then retain. I mean, the challenges with hiring, there is a teacher shortage. So when we are able to hire good teachers, good paras, good custodians, you know, we have to continue to be creative, strategic, and attracting and then maintaining, and I'm speculating that that might be included in the strategic planning process. I've done lots of things throughout the years, but it's just becoming even more critical. Because again, I don't think the shortage of teachers and then the overall labor market is going to get better anytime soon.
I agree.
So, yeah.
Did anybody have anything else to the personnel report?
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you, Joyce, to you and your team. I know it's been a challenging environment for you guys here. And I know that, you know, the number has gotten better since I was just looking through my notes since like last June 30th or whatever that you had updated us, or you'd updated me in an email. So I just wanted to thank you guys. So keep up the good work.
Okay. The next item, we need a motion and a second to approve the personnel report.
I'll make the motion. Are we doing the personal and the addendum together?
Let's take them separate, yeah. So,
Motion to accept the original report.
I'll second the personnel report.
all right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, moving on, the addendum requires a motion and a second.
Motion to approve the addendum.
Motion to approve the addendum, Matt Spalding.
Second.
Second, Kathy Willis. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. The next item on the agenda is the seclusion and restraint report. Joanne, did
Yes.
you want to make a presentation to that?
Sure, I'll speak to that and certainly take any questions. I want to start by saying that we always wish that we had zero seclusions and zero restraints and are always working toward avoiding seclusion or restraints at all costs. I want to be sure that you know that we have staff members trained in every building in nonviolent crisis prevention techniques so that we can avoid having any seclusion and restraints at all. I hope you noticed from the information I shared in your board packet what the definitions of seclusion and restraints are. And also that staff are prohibited from using a seclusion or a restraint unless there is someone who is in clear, present, and imminent risk to the physical safety of students or others and is the least restrictive intervention feasible. For those of you who may not have seen the board packet, because there are others listening, seclusion means the involuntary confinement of a student apart from other students in a room or area from which the student is physically prevented from leaving. And physical restraint means restriction that immobilizes or reduces the ability of a student to freely move their torso, arms, legs, or head. So in situations where there are students who are a danger to themselves or others, there are occasions where a student is secluded and or restrained during an incident. Board members were provided with some information about the total number of incidents of seclusion, also some and also restraint, also some information about what number of students were students with IEPs and special education versus students who are non-IEP students. And then there was a chart provided to you with that information. I want you to know that when these incidents occur, they are taken very seriously. Oftentimes, when they're available, there is a emergency team or a principal involved in the situation who is assisting. That there is a form that is completed and parents are contacted immediately, and then also provided a copy of the form. So that we are working hand in hand with them to try to avoid having other seclusions and restraints in the future. Although again, I wish I was reporting that our number is zero. I was pleased when we came to the end here that at the end of the year that for a more typical year than our years during the pandemic, we are down in our number of seclusion and restraints in the district, and our grand total of incidents is 126. Keep in mind with those 126 incidents, it could be that there was a student who required, just as an example, a brief restraint. Perhaps they were going to hit someone, just as an example. And because then the student got out of control and was unable to be held, needed then to be secluded in a place, of course, where they can be seen and are supervised and are in a safe circumstance, that would count as 2. That is a restraint and also a seclusion, and it could happen within moments of each other. I would be happy to answer any questions that the board may have on this topic.
I guess I have some. First of all, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, if like for example, one of our schools has multiple, it could be from the same student even, right? Many occurrences could be from the same. So this isn't 126 different students. It's with each occurrence.
Correct. When you look through the bullet points on the very first page, it does tell you that, for example, there were 67 incidents of seclusion throughout last school year, and there were 23 students involved in those 67 incidents. Now, that data does not tell you if one of those 23 students were responsible for 20 of those, or if it was more evenly spread. But yes, you are right. There could be situations where someone is responsible for multiple incidents.
And just for the record too, it's our numbers are down, but they're significantly down.
Yeah.
So in 2018-19, we had 293. In 2019-20, we had 186, and that was a year was partially virtual. So to be down to 126, like you said, it would be great to be 0, but we are significantly down. Is there a different way we're handling students that's a change, or are we just seeing overall better numbers?
When we're working with human beings, it's always a little difficult to answer a question like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Because it's okay. I'm glad you're asking, because I like to have the opportunity to explain. I think that every person working with children in our school district would like to, at all costs, avoid these situations. And so that means that our mindset is in the right place so that we can avoid those situations. Secondly, I know that training has been provided, and just as an example, during New Teacher Mentor Week, we will have all special education and pupil services members who are new to our district go through a full day training in nonviolent crisis intervention. So we are constantly doing that training. I know that some of the processes in the last years to have discussions directly after the incident have helped us have good discussions around how are we going to be sure this doesn't happen again. And one of the key questions we should always be asking is, why did this happen? What is, in our education terms, what is the function of that behavior? And all behavior is communication. And so what was happening that they were trying to communicate at that moment? And how can we get ahead of that? So those discussions have been helpful. We could do all of those things and still have a circumstance where someone has multiple seclusion and restraint incidents. Because just as an example, I think that you know that over 100 students with IEPs, just as an example, transferred into our school district last year. And so that ever-changing population of students makes it hard for me to say it's absolutely the efforts that we are putting together versus it is that we have different students or something like that. It makes it difficult to know that and be sure that I understand, why that happened. But I can guarantee you that we are working very hard to be sure that we are as low in the numbers possible. With that said, everyone here also wants a school environment to be safe. So if a student is a danger to themselves or others, we have an obligation to intervene. And so you wouldn't want the number to be 0 at the risk of anyone being injured. And so there's a balance in that piece as well. So I know I sort of answered what you were asking, Kathy, but I can tell by looking at you that you understand why I'm saying you can't really decide that it's absolutely with one or 3 of them. Yeah, thank you.
Carrie, did you have something?
Yeah, Joanne, I confess that I was never very good at math. And And I noticed that some of these things don't add up. For example, Lincoln had one seclusion and one restraint, and that equals 4. How is that? Just explain.
I was also an English teacher, Carrie.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I would be happy, instead of me doing that here in a meeting where I'm
Oh,
gonna try to
okay.
like, just a minute.
I thought
I
maybe
got a
I was-
calculator on my, I would be, if you noticed anything else, could you let me know what they are? And if I do need to make an addendum to this or to change it or update the board the next meeting, I sure would.
Oh, yeah, I just thought maybe I was, so dumb at it that
Yeah,
I
there could be a
missed the
there could be a
obvious.
typo on that number.
Okay.
There's several of them on there.
There are several.
Roll.
So we have had several people touch this document, and I certainly would be happy to go back and check those.
Okay, so I think, if my calculations are even close to right, we have it even lower than 1.6.
Well, would you like?
But
I was
anyway,
I was
never
kidding.
mind.
I was sensitive.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Carrie, do you want to add this up for me? I apologize if there's some errors or some
No, not
typos
me.
here. I think everybody on the board grid knows that I have gone the last 5 weeks without a secretary, and my new person started 2 days ago. So there have been 2 different secretaries and myself looking at this, and I apologize if I got an error on there, and I will absolutely go back and look at it.
Okay.
Not I said an error because that makes me feel better, but I understand there might be more than one.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to embarrass you at all.
I'm not easily embarrassed, Carrie.
Okay.
Yes?
In saying that, thank you for the report.
Yeah.
I have utmost confidence that you're doing your best job and the people in the buildings are doing the best job. And I like how you articulated that the human side of it, if there's one child that is misbehaving, we can throw a report, make it look bad. And I'm not in the business of looking at reports to make them look good. I'm not in the business of trying to help our children. And you articulated that very correctly and clearly. And I understand completely that the report isn't going to always tell everything that we need to see because sometimes there's things that we have to adjust for. And you made a great example of 100 IEPs coming into a district. That's just one example of many. So thank you for the report, and I have utmost confidence in this.
Me too, John.
So, I had a couple questions too. Just wanted to let everybody touch on that before I ask mine. So I had 3 questions. One was, I know that there's laws that are surrounding, the, ability to seclude and restrain. And I'm wondering if, as part of the training that we are having, if there is, if the laws that surround seclusion and restraint is included in that. I'm sure it is, but it's just one of those things that's just kind of, as I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, let's ask the question.
I appreciate that question. Yes, that's the answer. I usually give really long answers, but the answer is yes. We absolutely educate our staff members around the laws that have to do with seclusion and restraint, including that very important point about students need to be in someone needs to be in imminent physical danger, and it needs to be the least restrictive intervention. That's what would be exactly. Yes.
Right. And then the other one, I see some of these on here where it goes, the zeros for seclusion, and then there's numbers for restraint. Is there do we have a like a criteria for escalation or anything like that that would maybe fall into this element? Is there policy, or I guess not policy, part of the process for how it's escalated?
Not positive, but I understand what you're asking, but let me see if I do, and I'll let me say it back to you. And
Sure.
See if we. I think you're asking. Wow, it's interesting that there's different numbers in those 2 areas, and how do they pick, and how do they have some? Am I understanding your question? How
Pretty
do they,
much, yeah.
Yeah. How do they decide? And within the training for nonviolent crisis intervention, people are trained to think about that circumstance and use whatever is the least restrictive intervention needed at that time. And there are a lot of factors to take into consideration because I've been an educator for, 28 years or something like that. And everything from someone swinging a fist at someone to someone having a shard of glass in their hand and swinging is a big difference. And same is that an adult who is there to defend themselves as a child? Is it someone who, are there lots of people around or a few people? So all of those things are taken into consideration. In that moment, the intervening adult has to make a decision about whether there is a possibility for example, a restraint. Can we simply kind of hold someone's arm back in that situation, or is more going on in that whole scenario that would make us need to do something else? Sometimes you might be really far away, for example, from a space that would be a safe seclusion. And so you might be in a situation where you don't have a safe seclusion area for you to get to right away, and you don't have the option. I've been at the school forest with students over the years as a principal, and you don't have that option. So you have to take all of that, and we were out on the trails and something occurred. And so you have to just take all of those things in mind and make a decision based on the training that you've received. And you would want that to be the least restrictive measure possible. Did I get to the heart of what you're hoping?
Yeah. And then the last one that I had was for you touched on the fact of doing a debrief, and that was, we'd seen positive results in making sure we understood and captured the situation. Do we have situations where the student is involved in the debrief? Is that part of the required process as well?
We would love to have students involved in that debrief, but a decision has to be made about whether that's best for the circumstance. There are times that a student is still escalated and some conversation is taking place. And there are times that students are unable to understand that level of conversation. So we take all those things under consideration, but we always want students to be involved in what's happening with them. I like the phrase, nothing about me without me. That concept of nothing about me without me means include me. And yet there are some circumstances that it would make things worse if they needed to be present for that conversation. So our educators work in cooperation with the family to determine how that works. And we also are looking at what factors are taken.
Thank you very much. I have no other questions. Does anybody else have any other questions to the matter? All right. So there's no action required. It was simply for information. But then we would move on to the district activity report from Superintendent James Funk.
Thank you very much. Just to report out, yesterday, as we're getting ready for a new school year, we had all our principals and administrators gathered together for a luncheon, too, in a ready state to have a little camaraderie there in terms of how we're planning, how the summer's going, and how we're getting ready for the school year. It was really great. Being with the entire group, what was really nice is that I'd gone around and met individually with all of them. I just have one that I, didn't have the opportunity yet, but we'll do that. So that was really good. Today, I was able to stop in and exchange a little bit with our new mentoring group who are getting geared up for training and in a ready state for mentoring our new teachers. And I'd just like to acknowledge Joyce and Jason and Pam, all play significant roles in there. And it was just such a great feeling to be part of that and seeing that synergy and that professionalism, collegiality, and really in terms of this ready state that they work hard to get into to embrace our new teachers and get them ready. As we're all aware, today is fall primary election day, and we are one of the sites for District 5, and so we've got part of that building was kind of closed off today, so that polling can take place in conference room 1 here. Next week we've got New Educator Week, and so we're referencing that. So that's a whole week. I'll participate in kickoff on Monday, but again, this is really exciting. We have many new teachers coming back. It was nice getting geared up with mentoring, but I'm looking forward to that next week. A lot of paperwork that needs to be processed. So that's going up, and then the week after that, it's all staff coming back and gearing up. And so I sent some communications out. I'll forward you a copy, in terms of as we're getting geared up. But I'm really excited to be part of this thing. That was really nice. I'd also like, if we haven't, extend my warm welcome to Mary Blanick, new HR director, and Joyce and Mary have been working really nice in terms of this handing off of the baton. And I'm anticipating with Joyce's help and Mary's readiness that we're going to have a seamless transition, and we're going to continue to, as we always have, work to improve. Boom.
Welcome here.
All right, the next item that we have on the agenda for today is the unfinished business, which would be the strategic plan update. So Brett, would you care to give us an update? Good evening.
Plan. All of this, of course, all depends on just getting it all coordinated, but I think we can get that done. So with that, I'll stop. I'll pause and ask if there are any questions I can answer.
I do have a question, Brett.
Yes.
Why would you ask the names of in the surveys from like our staff? If like, what would be that purpose if you're not going to be sharing them? If you're not sharing the names of people,
Right.
I want
So
them to stay.
the staff one, we don't necessarily have to capture from the staff. I think from the leadership and the board, it's important because I may want to do a one-on-one discussion, or if I have a clarification of a question. If somebody gives me an item and I can't quite decipher exactly what they were intending to say, I can reach out to them directly. I wouldn't have to go through anybody else.
I understand some people may be hesitant to give a name. You know, they won't want to put it down. But I will manage this through like either a Google's form or a Survey Monkey so that really it's dumping into my account only. Nobody else is going to see names attached to that.
But Greg, given that you're a member of our community too, though, I think there'd be a lot of people who would be uncomfortable with that. And I think as far as staff goes, whether it be janitorial staff, teachers, whoever it may be, unless it's like kind of upper management, I really think that that needs to be completely anonymous. Unless, of course, someone chooses to share it with you, I don't see a purpose in getting those people's names. I think you'll have a much more open discussion or honest answers if you go for that anonymity. And I do that on my personal feeling and just taking surveys in the past from our staff.
And I have no issue making that an optional field if that's the desire.
Others would have to weigh in, but that's how I feel.
Yep.
Just to open it up to make it, like you said, much more honest and open discussion. People will feel more freely. And it'd be optional too. I mean, some people do have no problem giving the name, and other people may not. But the purpose of it is to get the actual what their feelings are.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose, right? And that way, too, people feel safe and comfortable giving the information, and that's how we'll glean the best information.
And I'm absolutely fine with that. And I just put that out there. We can make that field optional. You have that ability in the survey to make it required or optional. We can make it an optional field.
I would
Not
like
a
that,
problem.
please, but that's
So you're saying
just
at the staff and teacher level, make it an optional field. Are you comfortable with leadership and the board making it asking for their names?
I wouldn't ask for the names. I would make it completely optional.
At every level.
I guess
You can make it
I'm not the one making.
required for us, I guess. I wouldn't have a problem
Yeah,
with my name down,
sure.
but for directors and anybody, employees versus, I think that should be an optional thing.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
Would there be could it be possibly, well, if it's optional, then it's optional. I'm just saying, because I know that there's certain parts that you're trying to have the opportunity to follow up on.
Correct.
So,
But there may not be even say our principal leadership or our directors may want to tell you things or have it be spoken, but may not want follow up either.
Nope.
So I guess to make it completely optional does make sense.
Carrie?
Gee, I think this is all good, and my only reservation is that it's gathering an awful lot of opinion before we have a kind of a background for people. I mean, we really should have some hard information on what the Manor Rock Public School District is, what characterizes it right now, such as, declining scores, maybe, I don't know for sure, but increasing disciplinary problems. I mean, that's certainly anecdotally what I get. Something about the financial situation of this school district, because, you have to have a kind of a base of facts. I mean, I studied Plato in school. So, opinions are really good, and the opinions apply to what people think we should do about what needs to be done. So I think that we do have to have kind of a base of accurate, objective information about where the school district is now, because this is a plan for action. And I just don't want to spin wheels, on diversions and stuff that, really either isn't a problem that's not being identified or isn't a problem which is being amplified. And I think there's an awful lot of that that's going on.
So you're talking an info sheet with that precedes the survey. Is that what you're?
Yep. I think that everybody that gets a survey should have some absolute basic objective facts before they start saying, "Oh, gee, we should, we should restore."
It almost kind of comes back to, before when Brett was talking about a SWOT analysis, that's typically surrounding data, in terms of, so that there are critical elements that we're aware of that represent our district.
That's fine. Yeah. Like, I'm sure that, even the teachers may not know that much about the accurate information of the funding situation. I mean, I know there's members that came on the board that thought, well, why do we need to do referendums? I just think, you know, some things are not just up for opinion. I mean, as I said, I think, boy, opinions are good. They may really be instructive in terms of what we do about what we need to do, but we need to, you know, we need to like kind of have an accurate map before we start moving.
I agree with you 100%. And I think what we could do that is what you just said with those 3 pillars, you know, of discipline, of achievement. And then we kind of focus our surveys to that restraint to really focus on the objective things that we can try to improve on. So,
yeah.
So I think you said it though. I mean, you said 3: financial situation, behavior, what was the last?
Declining
scores.
Declining scores.
You know, and because my question was going to be, what are our pillars? I mean, how many pillars are holding up this school district? Are we going to go for 10? Are we going to go for 5 or 3?
Well, I think maybe 4, because I would add, you know, teacher morale and expectations. We go around kind of indirectly by saying, well, gee, why are so many people resigning? And Joyce says, well, it's not that many people resigning. And I think there's a suspicion that teachers are pissed off and dissatisfied and, you know, feel underappreciated and underpaid. I'd like to know if that's, you know, I'd like to know some accurate sociology on that before I start saying, oh, we should do this.
So I'll answer part of that by saying, you're right, some of this is opinion, but typically what I have experienced is as I ask a group like this, you'll be surprised how common the themes become. And the pillars almost build themselves. So what you talk about here, it starts to come out in the survey. And as I take those results and I start to group them, you know, I'll almost guarantee, I've already started, Jim and I've talked about, I put together a list of 1.5 pages of my thoughts on what the pillars may come out to be.
Okay, yeah.
And where, based on, I went back and read like 3 years of the board minutes, and I started to look at what I saw in those themes. Now, I don't want to present those because I want the survey to organically provide those. Right?
Oh, sure. I'm not too worried about what the pillars would be like.
Yeah.
I think Phipps is right on that.
But I think sheet is not a bad idea. Or some sort of an introductory
start with reality before we start projecting. Oh,
yeah. Right.
Yeah. Right. And then there was one, you know, we had heard earlier from, you know, an individual had said something about including students. I get it that this is the Board of Education, the leadership, principals, teachers, and staff. Has it ever been thought of, or I mean, was it considered to possibly include maybe to see even just a small survey, see where the student population sits on how they interpret their education and the direction that they maybe would want to see? Just an idea, just throw out there. I know that, you know, we sometimes as adults, and I'm guilty of this as myself in parenting, you know, we look at, these are the directions, just go do it, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, you don't want to omit the voice of the individual that's being taught. You want to give them some ownership. Has that been considered possibly?
We can write any survey we would like, and we can survey any population we would like. The question will become, you know, how far at age level do you go down and ask those questions? You hope in the community you'll get graduates, right? You'll get the graduates providing feedback on their experience in that education. And then at what point do you know, what age group do you go down to and make those questions?
I would also like to highlight, you know, that annually we do school perception surveying where we're surveying parents, staff, and students.
Yeah.
And I will make the information available to them. We already talked about some of this, you know, in terms of obviously, you know, it's going back to what are we gleaning already from some of the sources of information that we have.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll pull in that information. So, yeah.
Does anybody have anything else to ask or voice on? All right. Thank you for your time.
I would suggest maybe that you take action to it. I think what's happened is we've been presented a scope. That, maybe you approve the scope and the timeline of the.
Okay. Stacy, before we maybe look for motion for that, did you have something to add?
I wanted to make a motion to adopt the timeline and the scope.
All right, we have a
I'll
motion
second that.
and a second.
Can we repeat what that is so I have it for the minutes?
Stacy, can you repeat your motion, please?
I had adopted.
Yeah, basically.
All right. Just the adoption of the timeline, correct?
Yeah.
The scope? All right. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So we'll be moving forward with this scope and timeline.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. The next item to be bringing up here, items brought forward from the August 3rd, 2022 Finance and Budget Committee meetings. The first one would be the budget adjustments. Angela, did you want to speak to that?
Sure, I can be brief and answer any questions. Included in board book was the memorandum that was shared with the Finance and Budget Committee. Overall, for preliminary numbers, based on our total revenues and expenditures for Fund 10 and all funds, we did not exceed those amounts. However, with our actual revenues and expenditures, we did end up exceeding our revenues slightly around $100,000. So one of the main reasons for this occurring is the fact that we had to make sort of an unexpected transfer to just reclassify and correctly classify money that was set aside for prepayment of debt, which took place in January. So, that is the reason, one of the main reasons we're doing the budget adjustments. Just as standard practice in general, like big picture, it's standard for school districts annually to adjust their budget multiple times through the year, just because we have certain requirements with DPI with how it's reported, and they want to report it as closely and the board to be kept, just up to date on the budget expenditures, at least, at some point throughout the year. So that is the reason for the update. And so then I did provide like a brief overview within there, just of where we're landing for the year. And they're unaudited figures, just because we're finalizing the audit piece the end of the summer and the early fall. So we'd like to have the approval of the budget adjustments for the 2021-22 fiscal year.
Did anybody have any questions before?
I just want to say that I took the time to read through this and sent it out, and I'm just thoroughly impressed with Angie's ability to play with all these large numbers, come within so close, and then be able to maneuver things around to get it to fit. It's awesome. So I would motion that we approve.
All right. Do we have a second? All right.
I went through it too.
Any further discussion to the motion? All right. We have motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The next item to be brought forward from the August 3rd Finance and Budget Committee meeting was the purchase of computers.
Yes. And along with the purchase, the memo also attached in board book just provided an overall overview of our ESSER funding and claiming to date. So this included both private and public. As for ESSER 1 expenditures, year expenditures, they were two of the earlier pandemic relief funds. The private schools had equitable shares. So the memo includes just an overview of those $1.1 million in just rollover staffing expenditures from the previous year with ESSER funding. Spent and claimed. As with all federal funding, we're required to spend the money according to the requirements, fill out forms, applications, submit claims to the state, and then we get the money. So this just works to help us close out our financial year, and just wanted to share an update with the public. So, but then the official request is we had a large expenditure come up with due to needs. Our teacher laptops are just heavily aged, and they're very difficult to maintain and keep running and just make the teacher successful at this point. And so I talked to Director Bola here, and he had just suggested that we or just helped assemble a quote. And so we're just looking for approval for 400 teacher laptops in the amount of $336,664. I apologize, there's a pound sign there instead of a dollar sign, but they're really dollars. I just noticed that now. So, and Jason, I invite him to speak to that as well, please, if you'd like to add anything to that.
Nothing to go down. Yeah, I could answer questions that you had somebody. You want? I didn't see him. Stacy or Tony, did you guys hit your button?
I don't think it.
Oh,
Nobody's had. Matt, did you have something to?
So I think the laptops is a great idea. Obviously we have 7 years on a laptop. We all know that that's pretty old. So I think that moving forward, purchasing new laptops for our teachers is a great asset. However, I would like to try to think of a way that would help. We could create an option, like it would be called like own your own option, where maybe a teacher could purchase a laptop, maybe, like 2 years into the new laptop, and then they could take it home. It would be theirs if they decided to move on in a different field, or if they were going to continue to have that. And then obviously it would be a way to prevent us from having to buy 400 laptops at once. Obviously that's a big order because of our aging laptops. It was just an idea. I listened to it in committee. I thought of this option, obviously between then and now. And, I did it throughout UW Stout. I bought my own laptop. It worked out well. And I took care of mine a little bit more because I knew it was going to be mine. So, but that was me being a kid. So anyways, but I'm just trying to say that it might be a way that we could help and we could work out the numbers, but it would be very advantageous to just purchase your own laptop. But I think that would be an option that we could look forward to doing that. But I'm completely okay with and would like to make a motion to purchase these laptops with the ESSER fund at this point. I just would like to leave that as an option for us.
So we do have a motion,
I totally want to second
and we
it.
have a second. So we'll open up for discussion. Is there any discussion to that?
The only thing I'd like to add is that I know from communicating with various teachers in these last, a couple of years, but especially these last few months, that a lot of teachers are having issues with their laptops. So it's actually an exciting proposal, I think, to get them new ones so that they can function better.
I was thrilled to see it as well too, but I do have a couple questions for you, Andy. Am I under the impression we have a certain deadline for this ESSER fund stuff that we have to choose?
Yes, we're going to get these. Yeah, so this will take care of the last little bit of ESSER 1 funding that we have, and we have to have that claimed and spent by September 30th this year. And then like next year, ESSER 2 expires, and then the following year, ESSER 3 expires. So we just have some timelines, and we'll meet them without problem. We also have ways that we can, like if for some reason these don't come in, because they could be, on back order, maybe they will come in right. I'm not sure that we can, shift other things around to make sure that we maximize
a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries for the purchase of the new laptops. And then the last item that we have is the remarks from the board president, Stacy Seldner, who's with us virtually. Would you?
Yep, I just have a few things. Just wanted to thank all the public that came and gave public input. One of the things that was talked about during public input was the strategic plan and involving the community and also teachers and staff and principals. So I hope that answers that question about the scope and timeline that we have adopted will reach out to those partners that were discussed during that time. And then the only other thing I wanted to say was in response to teachers not feeling that they can keep students safe. Please encourage those teachers to reach out to either a board member or principal, or if it is a principal, maybe someone in the district. We want to make sure that, you know, a lot of times there can be a communication barrier about what we're trying to do, and no student should feel unsafe, no educator, or if that's the message that we've sent, then we need to anyway, so I just wanted to say that, I mean, again, our technology isn't perfect. By no means do we not want to stream our meetings, but the reason for the last one was this website that we use was not able to transmit the information.
And for your the company was StreamYard. Jason.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. The next item on the agenda would be the future meeting dates. So the next Board of Education meeting, are we seeking Stacy, are we seeking a second meeting for this month, or how are we proceeding there?
I would leave that up to our superintendent, and if there's agenda items that need to be on a special meeting, we can certainly schedule that.
So let's see, you know, with the strategic planning process, is that second meeting like a great opportunity sometimes, you know, for updates on the strategic planning process. You know, I do recognize, you know, that the board has had some questions before in terms of a special versus another regular. You know, I think we're going to have a lot of work, you know, ahead of us here with the strategic planning process, moving some things forward.
And we'll definitely have some
Higher
hires
grades.
to approve this. Mary already whispered to me, so we need one of her hires. Also, the curriculum committee will probably have some things that move forward, so that will be very timely.
So then, that being said,
August 23rd.
August 23rd, is there a time, I think last meeting, we had stated that we would like to have some continuity in our meetings. So is there any objection to maintaining the 6 p.m. status quo time?
No objection.
All right.
When did you start that? I mean, I apologize.
I know you
for
weren't
being
here.
late. I apologize for.
So
being late.
last meeting.
I had the thing, but.
You weren't here, Kip. Totally understandable because you missed that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the last meeting, there was, we had discussed, there was some request in the public that we have some continuity to the time of when we meet, because we were kind of bouncing all over. So we're trying to meet that request, and it was discussed that we stick with a 6 p.m. meeting. It kind of melted with everybody.
I just wanted to apologize.
Huh? Yeah.
We all understand.
And
Anyway.
yeah, well, we'll for now, so 6 p.m. On August 22nd, 23rd. Thank you for the clarification. And then do we have just buildings and grounds? Is there anything?
No, there isn't, but I want to talk to Chris because there is an issue.
Yeah.
And I want to know how we respond to it. But I think there may be a buildings and grounds committee meeting before the next board meeting.
Before the next board meeting? Okay.
Probably, yeah.
There's a number of things we need to figure out and see how that will, which ones we're gonna tackle
We can
first.
talk
We have
right
to-
after this.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so buildings and grounds will be to be determined at this point.
Right.
Okay. The next one, curriculum.
Curriculum will be meeting August 16th. What time did we determine that? 5. Okay, thank you. At 5 o'clock, and then ad hoc is meeting this August 11th, and that is from 1 to 2:30. We may or may not have another meeting August 18th. We'll determine that on this Thursday, what the needs for that.
All right. Personnel.
I'm going to be reaching out to the personnel committee to set up a meeting. Also, the executive committee to set up a meeting as well.
All right. So executive and personnel is to be determined. And then finance. We do have some budget stuff that we're going to be definitely looking at. So is there times that have?
Yes, we had August 17th, next Wednesday on the calendar. I'm just updating the invite because we just kind of moved times 4 o'clock this evening to work out already.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
And so that is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, I would seek a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
All right, motion. Carrie, did you have a second?
Yep.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, any opposed? And we are adjourned.
See you guys.